everyone, it's Dr. Candace Creasman and Tales from the Couch is back. So welcome. Today I'm going to do something a little different. I had a question from Jenny that I think is pretty relatable. So we're just going to talk about her question and see if we can sort out some possible solutions. So Jenny writes, I've always struggled with my identity. I was never preppy, jockey, or a stoner in school, but always identified with all of them. Just always felt not in the right place, in school and even now. I can make friends super easy, but keeping them, relating to them long term, it's a struggle for a people person. So I hear kind of two main questions in that I think a lot of people probably share. The first question being, who am I? And the second question being, where do I belong? And I think so many of us are struggling with that belonging piece. Maybe now more than ever, I don't know. I only have now to compare to. But regardless, it's a major issue that I certainly hear in my clients. Just these pervasive feelings of loneliness and disconnection and just really longing for meaningful relationships, but feeling really stuck to either get them started or to keep them going. So first, maybe we can think about some of the reasons why we can feel disconnected. So first of all, being disconnected from other people typically indicates some level of disconnection from ourselves. And we hear that in that question of, like, I don't know who I am. What's my identity about? So some of the things that can get in the way of us feeling really connected to who we are early experiences of being taught that our needs, our preferences, our existences don't really matter, and this can be from really traumatic experiences. Maybe we witnessed or experienced abuse or had parents who were struggling with addiction and who just weren't really present. It could also be when we were put in positions of being parentified as children, right? Where we were kind of forced to be tiny adults long before we really had the emotional or cognitive capacity to do that. So whether we were in a caretaking role of a parent emotionally or physically, or whether we were just sort of pushed to the side and left to fend for ourselves to some extent because our parents were working a lot, or parents were caring for a sibling with a disability. A lot of circumstances can show up that start to teach us that our needs just don't really matter that much. So in thinking about how to connect more with other people, I think we first have to start with making sure we have a really strong connection to ourselves. And one of the ways that I try to help clients to connect with a sense of self is by asking them to check out, rather than who they want to be, how they want to be. So I would challenge you to get a sheet of paper and some quiet time, if that's a thing that's available to you. Good luck with that, right? Get a sheet of paper, and at the top, write down this question. How do I want to be eulogized at my funeral? Because that sounds like a fun way to spend an afternoon, right? Is to think about your death. Imminent death. Yuck. And it's also a really useful sort of shock to the system to get us thinking about, wow, we really don't have all the time in the world. And if I lean into that truth, what kind of life do I want to be living? So, how do I want to be eulogized is meant to get us in touch with how we want to live. What kind of partner do I want to be? What kind of mother or daughter or son or lawyer or, whatever do I want to be? That question gets us in touch with the values that we then want to live by. And then, knowing the values that we want to live by, inadvertently or advertently, gets us connected to who we are. Because the voice that's going to be talking to you about how you want to be, that's who you are. That's your true self. The self that knows that it wants to be loving and honest and kind and generous and respected and knowledgeable, whatever your value system is about, that is going to come from your true self, okay? So in doing that, in recognizing, okay, well, that's how I want to be, then we can start to enact those values. Well, what would a person do who was loving? So that is a really good way that we can actually become more engaged in sustainable relationships is because we're actually doing the work of being the kind of friend, spouse, sister, whatever, that we actually want to have. Okay, so be the friend that you want to have, and you'll naturally have more sustainable relationships. Other things is we can also be mindful of making sure that we're meeting our needs before, or at least at the same time that we're meeting everyone else's, because a lot of times we can lose connection with ourselves because we just prioritize everyone else over ourselves. So maybe taking a daily practice of, did I do something for myself today? Even if it was I put food in my body, I put my body to bed and went to sleep, those things all count. Okay, so I would encourage you to ask those questions of yourself, Jenny, and see what shows up, and also see if maybe some of the backstory for how you started to feel disconnected doesn't also start to arise, because sometimes that can really help us to nurture ourselves more effectively and heal, is to know where the hurt is coming from. So last thought on that is you can also check out, there's a great book called Braving the Wilderness by Brene Brown that's all about belonging, and it's pretty good. So I'm very interested to hear what other people think and what your experiences of belonging and being disconnected have been like. So feel free to leave me comments, send me a private message. You can also email me at drcandicecreasman@gmail.com. All right, well, we're going to wrap up for today, and until we meet again, I hope you have a great week, and good luck on belonging and finding yourselves.